Ex-prisoners of Reddit. What is something about prison that a lot of people don't know? How loud it is all the time. Damn near deafening. And when it gets quiet, it's time to start paying attention to what's going on. I'm a prison officer and I can confirm this. When there's nothing happening and everyone is quiet, something big is about to go down. I've only done jail for 3 weeks. Besides the boredom, the worst part was the jits that wouldn't stop banging out beats on everything metal once it was lights out. There must be so many farts, dude. Sleeping in a room with 11 other dudes creates a symphony of farts. The rape issue, while not non-existent, is way less IRL than in the movies. I was in for 2 years, and it never happened once, in either prison. There's the odd tale told by lifers about this guy 10 years ago, or I knew a guy in a different jail, but it's not common. You can roll your eyes and walk away from almost any aggressive a-hole. But if you run, you're gonna get lit up. What you say can get you dabbed up in your cell. It's illegal to smoke in prisons in my country, so they have Nicorette gum. They're sold in sleeves, and go for $5 sleeve. That's inside currency. Transfers will cost you $90 for 10 sleeves. That's when they get someone on the outside to send money to your outside account, and you buy sleeves inside for them. Cards are king. Canasta and Big Two were the games of choice in one prison. The other one had a bridge table I joined. Don't ask, don't tell. The guy running around talking about how he's in on a body is a liar. He's definitely a deflecting sex offender. The guys who are in on bodies are lifers, and don't need to tell you why they're in. Generally, you don't fuck with people, they won't fuck with you. Guards don't care, but they ain't gonna give you grief if you don't give them any. And the name of the game is patience. There's certain things you can put in requests to purchase, like Discmans and a fan. Expect to wait 3 months. They'll order it in a few weeks, it'll arrive a week after, and it will sit in VNC for 2 months before they open it and give it to you. Harass them, they'll put it in property, and you can have it when you're released. Other than that, pen packs and boredom. Which country is that? Curious to know. Canada. You've heard of for-profit prisons, but it starts well before and ends well after prison. Everything has a cost. Parole, you pay a parole fee. Community service, you pay a community service fee. Court costs, you owe the state for part of the cost of you being in jail. Restitution, paying back the people hurt by your crime. Ankle monitor on your tab. Can't pay? Parole revoked, back to jail with no chance of reparole, and you must serve your full sentence because you violated conditions of your parole. The biggest scams are the halfway houses. They were about $1,500 a month in my town to share a dorm room with, well, another ex-con. Can't pay? Parole revoked, back to prison. And remember that you're supposed to be paying all this on whatever job you can get as a felon. Do you know how many jobs, like Wendy's or even Kroger, tell you to GTFO when you answer that you have a felony conviction? I couldn't work at a library. What, you think I'm going to steal a library book? If you have a substance-related conviction, and sometimes, even if you don't, e.g. me, you have to do regular drug testing. You're paying for that, of course. Can't pay? Back to prison. It was like $128 a month for 2x month drug testing. And again, my conviction wasn't drug-related. My roomie did have a drug-related conviction, so he had to do 3 random drug tests a week that he had to pay for. He almost got sent back to prison, 2 of 3 strikes, for testing dilute. That is, his urine was too watery. He was walking home in 95* heat, can't have a car at this halfway house, and was, you guessed it, drinking water. I did the math and I owed about $2,200 a month in mandatory court expenses, that if I did not pay I would go back to jail. That was something like 200 hours of work a month, before taxes and not even considering food. And I had a fairly good job, especially for a convicted felon. But the best part was the judge that sentenced both of us owned the halfway house. He was a partial owner. Talk about cash for kids. The system is absolutely 100% designed to send you back to prison. There is simply no way a normal ex-con can get out of this cycle on their own. I remember last week tonight John Oliver did a segment on how the prison jail system basically is set up to criminalize being poor. For example, a young woman got a parking ticket so she couldn't pay, so they throw her in jail, with all of those fees you were mentioning. By the time she got out of jail, she was more in debt. It seemed like it was mainly in the South. Never went to prison but got arrested before and spent a few days in jail. Chained next to a guy that was a repeat offender and taught his girlfriend, who also got arrested with him, sign language. Neither are deaf. They use it to signal each other in between cells. I always thought that was pretty interesting. That's kinda cute, but also not as cute as it can be given the context. Women's prison is a pettier, gayer version of middle school. I got pretty much molested daily my first 2 months. Prison definitely helped me to have a backbone. They are nice to you if they can tell you're not from the lifestyle. Most of the time I escaped the drama because my character and heart saved me. So if someone did try to start something, the other girls would usually step up for me. Everyone is all talk, and if fights do happen they're not that serious, and usually about prison girlfriends or mutual dudes on the outside. Yes, it is as gay as it is the media. 90%, married or not, no matter how straight they claim to be, engage in sexual activities or heavy petting and hand-holding lol. Even more definitely get into a weird emotional romantic relationship, even if they never cross the physical activity line. It's boring. Depending on the program you're in, there's mandatory wake up at either 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. I was in the 5 a.m., and you get written up if you're caught laying down. It's super hard to actually have any sex unless you're roommates, especially in a smaller facility. The guards really have no lives, so they police even sharing headphones. I got written up once for letting my roommate use my mayo at cafeteria for dinner. You get really comfortable having to strip down and spread and cough. I had to do it usually at least 3x a week. Most women gain a minimum of 30 pounds. Everything is processed and any gym time you get is limited and has time constraints based on units. The food sucks, so most of the time you have to rely on commissary. I'm a chef, and the facility I was in had a toaster oven, so the girls loved me because I taught a lot of them how to make some good food, haha. But also the ones that have done a lot of time know how to get creative. It's crazy. We had girls making egg rolls and Alfredo, haha. No matter how nice the staff might be, you will still always be put into place and reminded, treated like a subpar human being. Curious how long you were in for and what for? Don't have to answer, of course. I feel like it's so rare to hear from women that were in prison. Would love to hear more. Almost took an NP position at a women's prison, but then COVID hit, and I went a different way, but sometimes wonder about it. I was in for 13 months, and then 7 on house arrest. I hit a car that was broken down in my lane on the freeway. The impact happened when I turned my head to check my blind spot, and I was almost out of the lane. There were 3 other passengers in the car. The 2 in the front were fine, but the older passenger in the back was laying down unbuckled, and she didn't make it. I did have alcohol that night. In my state, usually that's 3 to 7 years for that kind of charge, but because of the circumstances, I got a really good deal. A lot of COs take the job hoping to make a difference, but honestly the system doesn't allow for it. So you either become a super chill employee that lets the inmates get away with shit cause you realize how petty and unnecessary some of the standards are, or you begin to hate them and become a bit off an ass thinking you're doing the inmates a favor by punishing them for small things. Very, very few prison employees know how to walk the line of being strict and consistent, but also knowing when to be kind and when to look the other way. Those are the ones that are most respected. Can only speak for Australian prisons. But the food can be incredible if you're lucky and they let the prisoners cook. Every chef is on drugs and will eventually spend time locked up, so you can have the entire kitchen of a prison be top-class chefs. Seriously, the best crumb chicken I've ever had in my life was in Pentridge in the mid-90s. So crisp and full of flavor. 25 years and I've never had anything which has come close to how nice it was. Wish I know who cooked it so I could visit their restaurant, lol. It's a lot more relaxed than people would guess. Common knowledge of prison has come from media that dramatizes the conflicts and violence. There is conflict and violence, but unless one places themselves in a position to be targeted, it's unlikely they will be. Prison is really just an annoying and boring grind for a lot of inmates. They are in there doing their time or dealing with their legal situation, and one inmate told me, "The worst is when we get a junkie that acts like he's still in the crack house and we gotta go deal with him." You meet a lot of people in there you really wish you didn't meet. Who do you wish you didn't meet? There are people that do bad things, and prison shows you that what they did doesn't make them bad people. While you're in there you meet actual bad people. You see true evil in human form. Some are just scumbags, Some are just shitty people, and then there are some that are truly so evil every interaction leaves you with an unsettled feeling you can't ever shake. Not a former prisoner, but used to work in a job that involved the prison system. 1. The sheer volume of paperwork prisoners do every day. Everything they do, everything they request, almost every little interaction with the facility involves paperwork. 2. How normal a prison can feel, almost like any institutional setting, hospital, university, etc., with people hanging around, shooting the shit, going to work, going to class, until suddenly it very much doesn't. I was a prison librarian for 18 months in a level 3 CDCR prison. It was a very mellow for the vast majority of my time. My last day the library was closed except for trustees and my replacement that I was training. The library had a 6-foot by 6-foot window that looked out on the yard. That day something popped off first in a classroom 3 doors down to the left of the library, and flowed out in the yard, and almost immediately popped off in the cafeteria 2 doors down on the right. Then the 3 dorms seemed to empty out on the lawn at once. It was stunning to watch. My trustees were protected in with me. If they weren't in there they would have been forced into the melee. It was a melee as guards just stood and watched, waiting for folks to tire out. It was like a murmuration of starlings. Groups swarming and diving in, pulling injured out and dropping them at the guards' feet and swarming back in. It went on for over 2 hours before the guards stepped in. Started about 9:30 a.m. and finished before noon, but then we were locked in until 3 as guards questioned and charged folks, got the injured taken care of and cleaned up the yard. They got our trustees out and back in their dorms about 1. It was like they threw me a goodbye celebration. Truly amazing to witness. I'm glad my trustees were safe. They were in lockdown for over a month after this. What is something about prison that a lot of people don't know? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.